All right, so welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. And it is a pleasure to be in your presence again. It feels like it's been forever since I've sat down to record, especially with this being the busiest season for me with football season. We're coming to a close of the regular season, getting ready for high school playoffs. I'm getting ready to wrap up the regular season with Jackson State University and hopefully have some extra games with the SWAC Championship and then Celebration Bowl. But it's been hectic. I mean, football is pretty much the main thing right now in my life. Between I'm coaching my son's flag football team, then I have sports with my daughter. She's playing junior high basketball, and that's 2 days of the week with games. And then I'm usually on the road with Jackson State on Friday or Saturday, unless it's a home game. So that's been the last 2 months of my life for the most part. So I'm glad that I was able to, number one, have some episodes built up, but also that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go to 2 episodes a month instead of weekly, because I knew that I needed that time during this season to be able to breathe really and to be able to stay on top of other things that I need to do. So thank you for continuing to stick with me. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for all your feedback that you give me. And I really appreciate it. And one thing I want to share with you today, number one, we're going to have, I mentioned before, compilation episodes where we've amassed so much good content over the last almost 3.5 years now that it's hard for, if you remember, man, I remember there was a good episode about something, but how do I find it now? So I want to come up with these compilation episodes where we can talk about specific themes and you can get that information from multiple speakers at the same time. And this week, we're going to be talking about kind of money mindset. And one of the main shifts that you have to make before you can go from being a saver to an investor is in the mind. And I was not really aware of that 5 years ago. So most of the topics that we will discuss in that segment will be things that were completely foreign to me in 2020 even. That's when I really started to dive into this. So I want to encourage somebody, if you say it seems overwhelming, it's too much to learn, stocks are too confusing, real estate is too confusing, there are too many rules. If you start to take bites of this, just in small increments, you can get there quickly. So many other things, multifamily real estate, short-term versus long-term investing, passive versus active investing, all foreign terms to me 5 years ago. Now I'm currently involved in all of them, from a real estate standpoint to different forms of investment. So this is not to brag, it's to let you know that it's achievable, but you just have to get started. Imperfect action is better than perfect action delayed. So you want to get started now because you'll start to build momentum. And then over time, you can even end up being the expert in these fields. So I want to share 2 quick stories about things that have happened to me recently. Very small things, but meaningful to me. And I think this will, if you listen in, you'll probably find yourself in this. So right before I moved in May of 2023, I bought a couple of items because I wanted to up my game in the podcast as well as the interviewing industry. So I wanted to get, number one, the fancy phone holder / self-tracking device. So I bought that, and I also bought a lapel mic because I wanted to be able to interview on the go. I knew I was going to be moving around a lot, and I wanted to be able to not have to sit down to interview. So I bought these 2 items with hopes of increasing my game, right? So unfortunately, I got them, very excited, and I tried to use the lapel mic, and it didn't work with my iPhone, even though the iPhone pictured on the box looked just like the iPhone version that I had. And I'm pretty sure they said it would work with that version. But I got it, the adapter didn't work. So I was like, dang, okay, what do I do? So I bought an adapter. Okay, so I bought one adapter, tried it, excited, didn't work. Bought another adapter, tried it, didn't work. So I was like, okay, this thing doesn't work. I got scammed, and it sat on my dresser for over a year. And recently, I was in a coworker's office and I saw the same box. And I was like, wow, I have that lapel mic. How does it work for you? Oh, it works fantastic. This is great. I was like, well, I had to buy this adapter, and the adapters I was buying never worked. And the person said, oh, well, it fits my phone, so I don't even need the adapter. How about you take the adapter? So after spending, these were like $40, and sitting on my desk for a year and a half, pretty much, I planned on sending it back, number one, because I was just frustrated that it wasn't working and I didn't care anymore. I was going to send the tool back, and they said, no, I don't even need the adapter. Take the adapter. So come home, rush home with the adapter, very excited, get home, plug it into my phone, and it works. So after over a year and a half of being frustrated, it was one connector that I needed. And I wanted to say that because many times in life, when we're doing things or we have goals, dreams, projects, books, things we want to write, things we want to do, we can get started on them, but many times we stall out. And many times we can get close to completion or maybe even complete it. And then we stop because we just can't figure out that last piece. So solving your problem could be as simple as finding the right connector, the right person to get you in the room, to get you in front of the audience that you need to be. It might not be that your product, your book, your record, whatever it may be, it might not be that that is not a good product. It might just be that you need the right connector to get you in front of the audience or in front of the panel that's most effective to help you. The other thing, this handy device. So I got it. I tried to use it. You know how these instructions come now. You get one page of instructions that basically tells you turn it on, plug it up, use this app, and it's going to work. And then they leave it at that. So I downloaded an app. I thought I had the correct app. Maybe I didn't, because what would happen is that I would turn on the device and it would literally stay on for about 5 seconds and turn off. So I was like, okay, this thing doesn't work. So I tried to send it back. And then just one thing leads to another, and it sits on my counter once again for a year plus. So once again, I'm saying, all right, eventually I need to send this back, but I never do send it back. So had a buddy coming over who works in the film industry. So I said he has to know how to do it because he works with video. He has a podcast. He records people. Surely, you know, a young man is going to know how to do it. So he walks up to the house. I actually meet him outside with this in my hand. I said, hey, before you leave, we're going to figure this out. I deemed him to be the expert, right? He said, well, you know what? We can figure it out together because I have no clue how it works myself. So I want to say that it was because many times we're looking for other people to help us or do things for us, and you deem them the expert. You think that they are affiliated with certain things, so they're going to know how to do it. And many times they don't know any more than what you know. All right. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, we sat down in 5 minutes. We came up with this app, which I'm pretty sure was a different app, and it starts working. So there was a video I posted where we were really excited. The camera was tracking me and doing all different things. So there was never anything wrong with the product, right? I just didn't know how to do it. So I want to say that, you know, finding people, sometimes it's the who, not the how, right? So many times we spend so much time trying to figure out how to do things, and we need a who. We need a person who is a little more experienced with us, or a person who will just be willing to sit down and go through things with you so you can better understand it. And now look, I'm excited. I got a lapel mic, I got a fancy camera holder, and I've had them, but now they're finally effective. So hopefully that'll help someone with things that you might be going through currently. I'm excited to release this compilation episode to you now, where we talk about mindset for creating wealth, or money mindset, the generational things about money that are passed down from generation to generation. And you just continue to perpetuate the same thing, even though it might not be what you want to do. So at some point, you have to break those cycles, and you break them through education. You break them through changing your mindset and the way that you interact with money. So hopefully this will help. And today you're going to hear from some of the leaders, you know, I'll say it now, from some of the top female leaders in finance. Unfortunately, we still have to say things like that, but I think right now it's still important to say that in our country, where you have to, I think it's still important to point out sometimes that women can do great things. So you're going to hear from some of the leaders, authors, CEOs in their own rights, and talking about mindset about money, how you interact with money, and how that can change your generation. So hopefully this is meaningful. Hopefully this adds value to your current situation. I know it can be frustrating many times at the end of the year. Some people will just say, I'll start over in January, or you are frustrated about the finances leading into the holidays, when you know that can be a stressor on families and on your overall financial situation. So thank you for continuing to rock with us. Thank you for being with us now for 3.5 years. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as we go into the new year, this next episode is going to be the Thanksgiving episode. So I'll be reaching out to some of you, hopefully to share something that you're thankful for in 2024. And we'll continue to move forward. We'll continue to support each other and continue to grow together. All right. Have a good week.
It's really important to have a multi-generational idea about money, because families that don't talk about money, it can create a lot of anxiety if there's issues, but like the kids can pick up on that. At the time, my husband at the time, my kids, and we all met at the lawyer's office to do our wills and things like that. And it was very unusual that the conversation around money was that open and multi-generational. And I was stunned, because I thought, my mom and kids were adults, and it's like, this needs to be talked about, because it causes problems later if you don't get comfortable with it. And the other thing, just about growing up with or without money, so I saw what it's like to fail and then to start other businesses along the way. And I think that took away some of the fear. It's just sort of like, okay, it doesn't work, you try something else, and that was a very important moment for me.
You have less than 5 years to financially secure the future for not only sometimes your family, but for future generations. So you have to really learn to maximize that time. And one way you can do that is by being healthy. How do you take care of your body? Many athletes, you already know how to physically take care of your body. You know how to work out. You know how to get the reps in, how to run, how to lift. But do you know about recovery? Recovery is one thing that's often overlooked in sports.
Money is not meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be used as a tool to create the life we want now and future for ourselves and for others. The goal for that 12-month container is not for us to come tickle with your budget. I don't have time for that nonsense. We're not here for budgeting. We're here for ownership.
So it's interesting, what was considered safe 10, 15 years ago, it's not safe anymore. When you're buying a single family home, the value of the home is based on next door neighbor. Where did Mr. Jones sell his house? Oh, he cost $250,000. Okay, great. Like, I'm gonna buy it at $255. That sounds like about right. Or I'm gonna sell mine for $260 in 2 years. It went up, right? Commercial is totally different. Commercial is an actual operating business. You're buying a business. It's cash flowing. You're buying a business that has tenants that are paying rent, that there's employees involved. There's a lot of different people involved in the whole thing. And you have expenses, you have income. You're buying 200 units maybe, and you have economies of scale. If I have a single family home and my tenant moves out and I have to find a new tenant, it can sit empty for 3-4 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. That is stressful, because you're having to pocket that money and really pay out of pocket for the mortgage, for the taxes. And if it's a 200 unit apartment complex and 20 people move out, it's not that stressful, because you have economies of scale. You have the cushion of the other tenants helping with that cash flow and that net operating income.
You'll be surprised how fast you can spend money, no matter if it's $10,000, $15,000, or $500,000. You can find a way to spend it if you don't have discipline. The bigger the amount of money, just the larger the trips, and the larger the, people ask for money, or people ask you to invest in different things. But education is so key. And for someone who's feeling overwhelmed, just 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't know what financial freedom was. I didn't know what the difference between active and passive investing. If that's where you are today, you can draw a line in the sand and say, from this day forward, I'm going to educate myself to learn about money. I've learned so many things, or I've heard so many things from family members, but to actually actively take a role in learning, that's when it really started to change for me.
If you have $300,000 in the bank that you've saved up because you've been so good, it's losing at 9%. It's losing money. That's never happened before. Recession, this is the highest inflation rate in decades. So right now, if you're a saver, you you're doing something more risky than putting it into something that either cash flows or goes up in value or just making your money work for you. If you start thinking that way, like, whoa, that's more risky than putting it into investment, then your kind of whole world opens up.
You can't work yourself to wealth, right? I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much work you can do, and you can only work for so long. So if your money and assets are not working for you while you sleep or while you vacation or while you take a sabbatical, then how are you going to achieve financial freedom or wealth? So that's very important, that mindset piece for sure.
Absolutely. And I think for your audience, depending on how much they've heard about mindset, I think sometimes people are like, what the heck is mindset? Like when I was starting out, I didn't know that word. Like I literally remember when I found out that like mindset and relationship with money was a thing, I literally broke down and cried because I was like, you mean this is what it's about? And no one is taking the time to really talk about it.
Ultimately, your relationship with your money is a reflection of your relationship with yourself, you know, and how you interact in the world and how you deal with conflict. My number one thing is teaching knowledge is power. And then also a lot of people that I talk to really kind of don't want to know where they're at, you know, and I just tell them it's like a GPS, you know, it's your longitude and your latitude. And you can't plan if you don't know, you know, you can't plan your journey if you don't know where your starting point is. And there's no judgment, but there can be a lot of self-judgment around, I should be further along than I am. Why didn't I do, you know, right? All the regrets, everything. But so we kind of don't want to know. But the only way we can get empowered is to actually find out and know, and then go, I am starting from here and I want to go to Chicago, or I'm starting from here and I want to go LA. And then you figure out like, what's the best way to go?
You're living your life, letting money determine your life, as opposed to you living your life and determining your money. So letting the money drive your life. So regardless of how much you have, if that's what's happening, then there's something that's going on here that's not aligning well. And the reason that I found is that the three relationships really are the core when it comes to how we create the life that we want. And when I say the three relationships, it's relationship with yourself, relationship with money, and relationship with others. And obviously I can write a whole book about that because I wrote the whole book about that. And what I did with the book is it wasn't only just about relationships, it was walking us through why we are where we are today and explaining why it's not just about the number piece, but also going towards sharing what I call like timeless wisdom when it comes to money. So a lot of times people will ask things like, so what should I invest in? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, y'all are asking the wrong question. Because if that was the right question, ChatGPT would not be able to answer it, right? If you go online right now and you Google what are 20 ways I can invest, Google's going to tell you stuff. But there's a reason why you're still not doing it. There's a reason why you're not going and doing it. It's because you either don't know what to do, or you have blocks in your mind that is preventing you from being able to take the step that you need to take towards that.
If you feel crappy about the interaction, find somebody who doesn't make you feel crappy. Now, if there's somebody who just knows you and yeses you to death and whatever, that's not healthy either. And hopefully you have the right kind of ego to be able to tell the difference. But if you don't, I can't help you.
Yeah. And one thing too, my wife and I, we do Money Matters together. And I think that helps because she's the question asker. You know, if something doesn't smell right, she's going to ask questions until she feels good about it. And I think somebody has to take on that role, because if you just sit there and nod your head, you'll be signing off on something that you really have no clue about. But make sure you get a good understanding. And I think that's what you kept saying over and over, really.
Yeah, and I think transparency is really important. You want people who are very biased towards transparency. Like they're very upfront about, okay, these are the fees, these are, like, you know, and this is the other thing is you can ask whether are these all the fees? Specifically, what are the specific, right? And so whenever somebody doesn't answer your question directly, that's a big warning sign. The more you automate, the more you make one big decision and just have it be taken out of your paycheck, say, and you get used to that. And meanwhile, the money is being put to work. As your income grows, to not grow your expenses, to sort of you want to enjoy life and your expenses can go up, but they just shouldn't go up one for one, right? That you can sort of enjoy that cushion and build that cushion, particularly if you're young and starting out. And if you're starting out, the power of compounding, just time is your friend. Just start, like even if it's $5, you've got the habit. And then you're watching that $5 do its thing.
If you don't talk about money, then you're paralyzing yourself and you're halting the amount of growth that you can have.